Hello, Jamaicans. I'm here to touch a sensitive topic, one that many of you may find absurd. I've heard a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding as it relates to this topic. So I just implore you guys to just stick with me and bear with me to the end of the video, which would be quite appreciated. So here in Jamaica, I know many of you may somehow heard that the age of consent is 16 years old. However, majority, if not all Jamaicans, do not actually know what it means. So a little history before we get to this matter. At one point in time, everywhere in the world, age of consent was 10 to 13 years old. This at the time was understandable as it was a rough time and everyone was forced to grow up, take on responsibilities and basically live an adult life. In 1988, the age of consent, 14, was increased to 16 years. The world created this to differentiate between an adult and a child. So laws state that adulthood begins at 18 years old and below that threshold you are a minor. So even those who are to be consensual at 16 is even considered as minor. These laws were created to protect children from sexual exploitation, abuse and sexual predators, etc. So the age of consent was designed to help teenagers make their own decision when it comes down to sex. They can choose to say yes or no, while minors under 16 cannot consent, and anyone who has sexual relationship with them are charged with statutory rape. So even if a minor is 13 and the other is 14, if both of them are caught having sex, the male can be charged for statutory rape because none of them reach the age of consent. And many of this is normalized in our society because nobody stopped to address these things. So we born and we see things happening, but we didn't know that there was a law against these things. And parents should encourage their children to walk in the hands or in the direction of the law. So we should be prone to be law-abiding citizens. So what Jamaicans do not understand is that the law for age of consent is not as open as some people thought. Some people thought that a girl at age 16 can openly have sex with somebody at age 30, 40 and even 50 and above. I'm here to tell you that that is totally incorrect and misconstrued. So don't wonder why a 21 years old is convicted for having sex with a 16-year-old who consents to sex. If the law was truly open-ended, would you see grown men walking and openly engage physically with a 16-year-old girl? Would you see grown men lining up at school gates? You would say it is up to the parents to not allow this, but you are wrong. The law is for the child to say yes or no, not the parents. You believe that increasing the age to 18 would be beneficial to children. You are wrong. Increasing the age of consent would not prevent or even reduce teenage pregnancy. Just look at the crime, for example. It is illegal and how devastating consequences, but yet still it gets worse every day. It's the same thing. Don't you still see grown men going to prison for carnal abuse and statutory rape? Isn't teenage pregnancy still high, especially in girls under 16 as well? Listen, Jamaica, you are given your laws by England. And even though you are not aware of the fine print for this law, it is there. Our 16 and 17 years old are indeed protected by this law, even though they can legally have sex. The fine print of the law states that it is illegal for an adult in a position of trust, or responsibility to have sex with a 16 or 17 years old. What does the word position of trust mean? It means you cannot be a teacher, a pastor, a doctor, family friend, etc. and have sex with a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old because they are not yet adult, they are minors. Secondly, it is illegal if the partner is a caregiver or a supporter to a teen or the teen is dependent on that person in any way, shape or form. Like for example, a teenager may have somebody who take care of her. Is not a family member, but somebody who stand as a form of guardian, maybe a supporter, as what is stated here. Supporter meaning you got your little school money, a school fee, and you choose to that person choose to molest you. Well, it will be seen as molestation, because if a person is there to support you, his only job is to support you, not to have sex with. So thirdly, it is illegal to pay a teen for sex. That is child abuse, not prostitution. Right? Fourthly, it is illegal to take, show, or distribute sexual images of the teen in any circumstances, even if they were the ones who take it themselves. And this is for teenager at the age 16 and 17. Right? So don't get it twisted or misconstrued. It's not about those who are under sexual consent. It's about 16 and 17. It's the same for 15 and people below, but I'm emphasizing on 16 or 17. It is illegal if the relationship between young teen and their sexual partners is exploitative. At 16 and 17 years old do not have the range of life experience or the same option available as adults. So sexual relationships between these children and adults are not based on equality of knowledge and power. They may be viewed by the law as grooming, for which criminal charges also exist. So people grooming is wrong. You hear me, sir? Wanna stop it? So they cannot manipulate. Grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or teenager so they can manipulate, exploit, and abuse them. The wider the gap in age, the more likely it is that the young person is disempowered and susceptible to persuasion, intimidating, abuse, or grooming. So you see a wider gap, the farther you are from 16 as a male figure who find interest in a 16 or 7 years old, the further the age gap is the more likely you are grooming that person, and grooming is wrong. That is how the eyes of the law sees it. So the bigger the age gap, the more likely you are to fall under one of the illegalities listed above, because you can never truly prove that a teen fully and freely agrees to consent in sex, even if they say yes, because they have childish mind that can change like the weather with a grown adult and can feel guilty and remorseful after the sexual act. It is therefore recommended that the adult or partners should be less than 5 years older than the consenting teen, aged 16 to 19 years, to avoid criminal charges. The legality of the law is not force teens to have sex because it is a choice. So a lot of Jamaicans heard about the age of consent being at 16, and they think that the government is pressuring teens to go and have sex. It's not that. It's just there just in case they need to have sex. A lot of people used to preserve their virginity until adulthood. So the law is not there to re-emphasize or to reinforce children at the age of 16 or 17 to have sex. So the young people should be free to grow at a pace and in a way that suits them. No teens need to have sex to prove that they are growing up. Instead of worrying about the increase in the age of consent for only the prevention of teenage pregnancy, the increase should be placed at school leaving age, and criminal reform be fixed and fully implemented as at least 50,000 men should have been in prison between 2009 to 2019 for 60,000 pregnant teenage girls. So female activists do not protest for the girls' protection, but sexual liberation with provision of contraception and abortion. Look at the disparity. So people find abortion more of a topic to protest about in public rather than to protest about the 50,000 to 60,000 females, teenagers that are being impregnated over the past decades or so. So They rather to talk about trivial things like abortion and so forth. So that's a disparity I don't like about females' empowerment. They have never yet tried to address the things that are really affecting them in society. Don't get it twisted, Jamaicans, as not only men in the country are perverts. Women take severe advantage of young teens boys, and this destroys their minds mentally. Both genders are on equal footing and should be equally protected as well. Any adults guilty of messing around with children should be given the same sentence of 15 years each. So I want to thank you all for listening, Jamaica, and I hope that you will find this video very productive, informative, and please continue to support the channel and share the channel with a friend. Alright, so see you next time around.